It can be an uncomfortable thing to actually be intentional about finding people in your life that you can ask for wisdom because you are admitting you don't know something. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Daily Disciple. This week, to be honest, I've been really busy. Okay, my life has been kind of a whirlwind and it's been tough to find times to figure out when to do these videos and also what actually to do the videos about. But this week, I was reading through James. James is one of my favorite books in the Bible. It's short, you can read it in one sitting, and it is just awesome. It's packed with so much truth, and when you read it, it encourages me every single time. So I was reading in James 1, and I just started it out, and something struck me. It says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let the steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." So I just read this verse, and very famous verse, and it spoke to me in a way where at this point it was just like, yes, God is going to give me what I need to get through it. God does give us more than we can handle, but He gives us the tools and equips us to, and stretches us in the times of trials. But that verse wasn't the only one that stood out to me. I'd read that verse many times before, but this next verse, verse 5, really stood out to me. So it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him." When I think about myself early on, there are many things that I would have been more predictable to ask God. I ask God for peace. I ask God for joy. I ask God for comfort. I confess my sins to God, of repentance. But how often do we actually ask God for wisdom? Now, this is interesting thought because, yeah, we ask God for peace. We ask God for comfort. We ask God to, protect us and protect our family and to heal and all these things. But it's more rare, at least in my own life, beforehand, that it was like, I just didn't ask God for wisdom. Why is that? I think it comes down to, number one, the fact that in order to ask for wisdom, you need to be keenly aware, at least to an extent, that you don't have it. You don't have it to a degree, right? It takes a level of openness and humility that's sometimes really hard to have. See, when we ask God for wisdom, it really comes down to knowing that we don't have it all together. We don't have it all. We don't have all the answers, and we need God to really show us these answers and just wisdom in our lives, help us make decisions better through His truth and His Word, but also putting people around us that can impart wisdom into our lives. It can be an uncomfortable thing to actually be intentional about finding people in your life that you can ask for wisdom because you are admitting you don't know something. But at its core, we need to understand as believers now that we don't know everything, that we are continually learning and in the process of sanctification. And in this quest for wisdom, God will sanctify us. He will bring us closer to Himself. We'll develop a greater intimate relationship with God. And through that, we'll begin to have that wisdom. And what is this wisdom that I'm talking about? Well, it's a big aspect of it is discernment, okay? So we all have things in our life that we are like, should I go this way or should I go with this way? These things come down, right? Do you have wisdom? You need wisdom in doing it. It's very common, but how often do we actually feel like we possess this wisdom? Being able to discern not only just right from wrong, but good versus better, or something good versus something that God has actually called us to. This kind of discernment, this kind of wisdom is only amplified when we have people around us that can impart this wisdom into our lives, that we're open with, that we're humble with, and also being open with God and asking Him for wisdom. And I hope I don't need to say this, but I'm not saying don't ask God for peace, joy, comfort to a degree. But I'm saying that we ought to be more intentional about asking God for wisdom, because it is such an important part of the Christian life. This is how we grow. When we grow in wisdom, we grow in closer relationship with God, because our minds begin to be transformed and our hearts become to be transformed more in alignment with God. And that is what wisdom is. It's when our hearts and our minds are more in greater alignment with God's nature, with His good nature, with His ultimate wisdom, because He is wisdom. He is ultimate good. He's ultimate discernment. And that's what we're trying to ask Him for. I think of Solomon when he was presented with an opportunity to request something to God. He chose wisdom. Now, why was that? Now, David, you read the Psalms. David wrote the Psalms and the Proverbs, and you read these things, and they are packed full of wisdom. And it's just absolutely crazy how much wisdom there is in this. And you can see David's love for wisdom. He was a man after God's own heart. So Solomon, being the son of David, you must have you can conclude to an extent that Solomon saw this legacy of David's seeking wisdom, his hunger for wisdom. And that's why Solomon really dug into asking for wisdom, and we should take note of that too, seeing that how important wisdom is in our lives, being intentional about that. Now this week I want to encourage you, take practical steps with people and become more open with people. Okay, oftentimes we try to sway more to the things that we do know, and we kind of amplify those things, and that's good to do. It's important to stay with what you're comfortable with to an extent, but it's also important to get out of your comfort zone, understand what you don't know, and ask other people, and ask God. God has answers in His book. He has answers, and He's ready to provide them for you, whether the means of His word or bringing other people in your life. And I just want to encourage you through that. Find people that can be around you, that can impart wisdom into your life. Don't cut those people off. Bring them in, and it's just going to help you tremendously, regardless of how old you are, but especially as a young person. Really find these people in your life and just, be hungry for wisdom. It's only going to aid you in your relationship with God. That's my encouragement to you this week. I pray you have a blessed week, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again. See you next time. Oh yeah, and also, if you want to subscribe, I'm not going to stop you. And I put out new videos like this all the time, so be sure to stick around. You can check out dailydisciple.ca for new blog posts and maybe some exclusive videos that you can check out. And I'd love to talk with you either on there or on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. So I look forward to seeing you there, and I'll see you next time.